21st day on Eric's truck. We got a 1962 Chevy pickup that we are going to get running today. So stay tuned. And you need these little special type of fittings right here. This side of threads is kind of beveled, so when it goes in, it expands where it tightens up and will keep it from leaking. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do a double flare connection. This is like what you would use on your fuel lines, your brake lines, things like that. So first we get the special little cutting tool and we cut it. Then we get our special little deburring tool. Deburr it. And we get this piece here. Don't forget your fitting first. Okay. So don't forget to put your fitting on. Then you put it in your clamp. They're marked, so 5/16. And we take our little plunger here, and the thickness of this is how far we want that metal, the pipe to come out. Tighten that down. Put our plunger in. Then we tighten this down. We're going to tighten it down to about that much right there. We don't want to smash it all the way in. Take the plunger out. And now we dial this back in. Again, we're not plunging it. We don't want to squeeze these things all tight. What we want is that when we attach them to whatever we're bolting them onto, that's when they'll get the final squeezing, so to speak. So that is what that's supposed to look like when you're done. Okay, so you'll notice on this we've got a 0, we got an R and an L. I can't remember what the R and the L stand for, but if you make a mark on your pipe right here, then what you'll do is that if you want it to come out dead even, then on the mark you'll do it right in the middle, a little bit before, a little bit after the curve. So here you can kind of see how I do this. This was going to be a little bit tougher, and that would make this piece stationary. Then I can go ahead and figure out how high and low this piece will be. When I figure out where I'm going to cut it, I have to make allowances for how far this nut screws into here and for enough to be able to do our double flare with. So looking good. Okay, so when we put these style of exhaust gaskets on, it's always tough to remember what side goes where. The shiny side goes out towards you, so shiny side out. Okay, so I got my igniter. I'm going to go ahead and install it. They changed it around a little bit, so we'll see how this goes. So I've already taken my old points out of this. Okay, on your rotor, you have to remove the screws here. You get this ring here, and this ring slips over like this. And then it goes up through the holes where the rotor nuts used to go. Put our rotor right back on top. And there's a rubber grommet that comes in the kit, and that rubber grommet is going to go in this little hole right here where the old wires used to come out. Then I'll send these new wires down through that hole. And the holes that are on this plate will line right back up where the holes of the points and condenser were. Okay. So with it installed, you can see this is the pickup right here, and this right on top is the ring that we installed right here. And you have to make sure that when you're spinning this that it doesn't contact, and we have to make sure we don't have too large of a gap here or not too short. It has to be between 1/10 of an inch and 1/100th of an inch. Okay, so everything's looking good, so I'll start doing something else. And that's what it's going to look like when you're all done. So when I install this piece right here, you can see that I just simply put a bolt in there and cut it off. And then I have to put this gasket on. So on one side this is going to be flat, and the other side this is going to have a bevel. The bevel is going to go down, and this flat gasket is going to go like that, and then it's going to go straight up. Alright, so this is an exhaust donut. They got these that are crushable that are less expensive and stuff like that, but usually get crushed and then vibrations go around, they get crushed more and they start to leak. So I like to get these here. These are the solid ones. They don't crush down at all. It's just a solid chunk of metal. So they'll run you a little bit more, but they're better. Okay, so on old ass engines like this, we want to use 100% synthetic. Regular oil burns when your car gets old and things like that, so it'll smoke. But synthetic motor oil doesn't burn the same way, so it doesn't smoke as much. Plus, it's just better for lubrication and everything. This is a shaft from an old distributor. I simply just took it apart. The reason is you can see the bottom of there's a slit right there. So that slit is going to line up to the top of the oil pump, and I'm going to spin it with a drill, and that's going to put oil everywhere. Okay, so now I'm going to install my distributor. When it's installed, I want this part right here that is going to be firing off the number one cylinder to be pointing at the number one cylinder. Now remember that this slot here on the bottom, because the oil pump can spin around, that slot may or may not be in the right place. So you'll have to get it in the right place and put the distributor in a couple of times. Also, you'll notice that these are slanted right here. So when the distributor goes in, the rotor will kind of screw in. Okay, so by the way, make sure you're top dead center first. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing my wires. Your natural inclination would be to start at number 1 and then go 8, 4, blah, 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 blah. But the problem with that is that that gets all the wires out here to the front first, and then you have to work back and you have to trick the wires over the other wires, blah, 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 blah. So start backwards, start on the last firing order and then go the other way around. This way you'll start at the back and you can route this back one, then you can route the second back one, so on and so forth, generally. Just I'm going to put my spark plugs in and make sure they're all gapped at 35. That's 35. Okay, so on all of the spark plugs, actually all of your electrical connections, you want to use a little bit of bulb grease, otherwise known as dielectric grease. And you want to put that on all your bulbs, on the connections, any of your connections like this right here, so that it won't rust and so that you'll get good connectivity. So I'm just going to mark each wire. So what this does is it cuts the wire but leaves the little cord in the center, and you take that piece of that wire that's coming through the center and you fold it over. Actually first get a little bit of the grease on the cap here and stick it through. Okay, so I get it clamped on. Now I can slide it back down. So pretty much just hooked up. So we've got our 2 wires left from the igniter 2, and the black will go to the ground of the coil, and the red will go to the positive on the coil. Okay, I'm all done for the day. I got this thing so close to running I can almost hear it. So tomorrow I will. We'll see y'all then.